Alright, now that we've seen vertex selection, let's take a look at edge selections. We'll tab into edit mode and deselect our cube. Next to our vertex selection button, we have an edge select button. However, as we learned in earlier videos, we can reach that with the hotkeys Control-Tab, and then select edge. Everything we did in vertex mode, we can also do in edge mode. Also, the same rules for solid and wireframe, as well as our limit selection to visible button, still apply, as do our box and circle selections. In fact, even O, our proportional editing mode, will also work in edge select. Now, there are some more things I want to talk about. So let's delete our cube, again by going back into object mode and hitting X, and create a sphere by hitting Shift and A and choosing sphere. But before we go on, it would be a good idea for you to pause the video, tab into edit mode, and test your knowledge of edge selection using the same methods we learned in vertex selection. When you're done, just return to the default sphere and pick up the recording here. Alright, let's talk about loop selection. First, let's turn off our transform widget for a better view. If we select a horizontal edge, we get just the one edge, and that's fine. Alright, let's deselect that. Now, let's try holding down the Alt key and selecting the same edge. As you can see, we get a loop. Now, if we hit A and deselect that, and select a vertical edge using the Alt key, you see we sort of get a loop. This is what's happening. Blender does its best to determine what we want, but you do need to be aware that sometimes, like when the vertex at the top being a terminator for all the edges, Blender may not be able to figure it out, and it'll just do the best that it can. Alright, let's deselect that. But what if we want a specific set of edges? Well, we could simply use Shift to select multiple edges. But here's a little twist. With our selection cleared, let's select a new edge. Now, instead of Alt, let's hold Control and choose an edge along the path a little ways away. Blender fills in the path for us. That's neat. What if we wanted to cut out a window? Well, let's hold Control and continue to select an edge along a different path. Even neater. What if we try this in a tougher to reach place for Blender? Well, Blender will try really hard to work it out, and often Blender will get it right. Let's undo and try another. This time, Blender gets it wrong. That's just something to note as you move forward with editing. Blender will try really hard, but sometimes you're going to have to think for Blender. Alright, we've tried the Alt key and the Control key to create loops and lines. But what if we want a selection in a ring of edges? Well, that's easy peasy. Try Control and Alt together and select a vertical edge. Look at that. One ring coming right up. Alright, let's review. We've seen the similarities between vertex and edge selections, and hopefully you've taken the time to play around with those a little. We've learned about using Alt to make loop selection. We've also covered using Control to make partial selections. And lastly, using the combination of Control and Alt to make ring selections. Great. Let's quiz quick, and then check out the challenge at the end for a few new tricks. Ready? Which hotkey allows us to make a loop selection? Which hotkeys allow for a ring selection? How do we make a partial selection? If we want to switch between vertex and edge mode, what are our hotkeys to bring that up on screen? Hopefully you got those right. If not, do a quick review until you can answer them all. Now for the challenge. It's not terribly challenging, but you should learn something neat. You've learned some new moves in edge select mode. But what happens if you go back and try them in vertex select mode? Take some time to play with that. See what works exactly the same in vertex mode and what reacts a little bit differently. And I'll see you in the next video.